Hey, I wouldn't really call myself the most active person ever, but every now and then, I like to work out, go for a run. Just enough to not feel completely out of shape. Usually I run with my friend Jay. He's way more athletic than me, kind of like my unofficial trainer. We used to go on late night runs around my neighborhood. It's well lit, pretty safe, quiet, or at least that's what we thought. We stopped running there 2 months ago because of this night. Okay, quick layout of my neighborhood so you understand what happened. There's this main road that branches off into smaller roads. They all connect back to the main road eventually. And if you keep running down the main road, it leads to this dirt path, kinda isolated, surrounded by farms and woods. That dirt path was our final stretch before looping back home. Simple enough, right? Until this one night. Jay and I started from my house like always. We decided to switch things up a bit, take a slightly longer route through this wooded path to add some extra miles. We were just talking about random high school drama, life stuff, totally normal. But then, we heard footsteps behind us. At first, whatever. It's a public path. Could be another runner. They matched us. If we sped up, they sped up. If we slowed down, they slowed down. Jay looked at me. I looked at him. Both of us getting that same weird feeling. You know that moment when something feels off but you try to stay logical about it? That was us. We finally reached the end of the wooded path, step out onto the road, spin around to see who was behind us. Nobody. Empty path. Not even the sound of leaves crunching anymore. We both just stood there, breathing heavy, staring into the trees. Jay kinda laughed it off. Probably someone messing around or trying to keep their distance. I wanted to believe that. So, we kept running. We reached the main road, then the long dirt path. Now this part is totally different. No lights, no houses, just trees on both sides. Super quiet. The only sound was our shoes hitting the dirt. But after a few minutes, that changed. We heard it again. Except this time, they weren't matching us anymore. They were faster, closer, almost like running straight at us. We stopped dead in our tracks. Then, nothing. Dude, don't look back. Just run. I didn't even argue. We sprinted, faster than either of us had ever run before. Didn't stop until we reached the main road again. Lights never looked so good in my life. When we finally made it back to my house, we didn't even say anything for a while. We were just sitting there, processing what happened. We never figured out what that was. No other runners, no animals. And the weirdest part? We never heard footsteps leaving, only following. Jay and I haven't run that route since. And honestly, I don't think we ever will. Sometimes. When I'm walking past that dirt path during the day, I swear, I feel like something's still watching, waiting, listening. Maybe it's still out there, waiting for someone else to run alone. I've always been the kind of person who enjoys quiet walks alone. No music, no distractions, just the sound of my footsteps crunching against the pavement. It was the perfect way to clear my head after a long day, and I'd do it almost every evening. The neighborhood was peaceful, surrounded by woods on one side and a creek on the other. There were only a handful of houses on my street, all spaced apart, making it easy to forget you weren't entirely alone. One evening, after finishing a late shift at the local diner, I decided to take a longer walk, heading down a trail that veered off into the woods near the creek. I always felt at ease there. The trees whispered in the wind, and the air had a crispness that made it feel like the world was holding its breath. But tonight was different. As I walked deeper into the woods, I noticed the stillness. Not the usual, peaceful kind, but something off. Unnaturally quiet, like the world had pressed pause. The only sound was the crunch of leaves under my shoes and the occasional rustle of branches. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself I was just tired from work. Then, as I reached a bend in the trail, I saw something in the distance, a figure standing just beyond the trees. At first, I thought it was just someone out for a walk, but then I realized how motionless they were, just standing there, staring into the woods. I froze, unsure of what to do. The figure didn't move. And as my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I noticed the oddness of their posture. Too still, too rigid. It was a woman, but there was something wrong about her. Her face was hidden in the shadows of a hood, but I could feel her gaze on me, cold and unblinking. "Excuse me?" I called out hesitantly, but she didn't respond. She just stood there, motionless. I took a step back, my instincts screaming that something was off, but before I could turn around, I heard a noise, a low, guttural growl coming from the direction of the creek. My heart skipped a beat. I knew the area well, and there weren't any animals in these woods that sounded like that. Not unless... I spun around, and to my horror, the woman was no longer where she had been. Instead, she was standing much closer now, her face still hidden in the shadows of her hood. I could barely make out her outline, but her presence felt suffocating, like the air had thickened around her. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to sound calm, though my voice cracked. There was no response, just that eerie silence again. Panic gripped me. I turned and bolted, my heart pounding in my chest. The trail back to the street seemed longer now, the woods darker, as if they were closing in on me. I didn't dare look back, but I could hear footsteps, slow, deliberate, trailing behind me, keeping pace but never catching up. I reached the edge of the woods, my lungs burning, and looked over my shoulder. The woman was standing at the tree line, her hood still shadowing her face. She didn't move. She just stood there, watching. Then, something strange happened. The growling noise came again, but this time it wasn't from the creek. It was closer, right behind me. I spun around, heart in my throat, but the woods were empty. I didn't stick around to figure it out. I ran home, faster than I had ever run in my life, barely making it inside before I slammed the door behind me. I never went back to that trail. I don't know who or what that woman was, or what followed me that night. But I do know one thing. There's something in those woods. Something that watches, waits, and knows when you're alone. And you don't ever want to be alone there. I've lived in a small, quiet town tucked away in the corner of the country. It's the kind of place where the roads are narrow, the fields stretch for miles, and everyone knows everyone, or at least they think they do. But no matter how serene it seems, there's always that one thing that doesn't fit, that one thing that doesn't belong. This is the story of a chilling encounter that started when I was just 10 years old, and it never truly ended. It all began one autumn evening when my little sister and I were walking back from the corner store. It was one of those rare days when the sun set a little too early and the streets began to glow orange as the shadows stretched across the pavement. Our house was a few blocks down, and we often walked the same path. Quiet, peaceful, routine. But that night, something felt off. As we passed the old farmhouse on the corner, a car slowly rolled up beside us. It was a black sedan, sleek with dark windows. The car didn't stop right away, but it moved with us, keeping pace. I glanced over at my sister, and I could see the same unease on her face. We were used to seeing cars, but not like this. The window rolled down. A man's voice came from inside, deep and calm. "Hey, you kids need a ride?" I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't know why, but something about the way he spoke, too calm, too rehearsed, set off alarm bells. We ignored him, kept walking faster. But then something strange happened. The car didn't drive off. It kept following us slowly, patiently. I could feel it, the weight of the eyes on us, even though I couldn't see them. I turned my head back toward the car. The man's face was now visible in the window, a wide grin stretched across his face. His eyes didn't blink, and he just stared, not moving a muscle. We rushed home, never looking back. I told my parents that night, but they brushed it off. "Probably just someone asking for directions," my mom said, trying to comfort me. But I couldn't shake the feeling. A year later, Halloween 2015, our neighborhood had its annual trick-or-treating event. Kids ran down the street in costumes, laughing and shouting, and everything felt normal. Until something happened that sent a ripple of fear through the entire town. A black sedan, exactly the same car, was seen following the children. It was no longer just creepy, it was dangerous. When a parent approached the car to ask if everything was okay, the man in the sedan gunned the engine and tried to run the parent over. The car sped off, and when the police were called, the plates were missing. That night, every child in the neighborhood was told to stay inside, no more trick-or-treating. It felt like the end of innocence for all of us. Fast forward to the summer of 2018. I was a teenager by then, still living in the same neighborhood, the same quiet house. One evening, I was pet sitting for a neighbor who had gone on vacation. I was used to walking through the woods to their house. It was quicker, although the trees were so thick that it felt like walking through a tunnel. But that night, something changed. It was late, nearly 10 p.m. I was finishing up my pet-sitting duties when I saw something that made my heart stop. A black sedan was parked at the end of the driveway. I was sure it wasn't there when I arrived. My hands shook as I went to leave, but I saw no other cars around, no lights in the windows. I hesitated, but I knew I couldn't just stand there. I decided to take the woods back home. I figured it would be safer than walking down the empty street. But halfway through the woods, I heard it. A sound that froze me in my tracks. A car's engine. It wasn't far behind, but it was unmistakable. That black sedan. Again. I didn't dare look back. I ran the rest of the way through the woods, heart pounding in my chest. I made it home without incident, but the encounter stayed with me. And over the next few weeks, I found myself thinking about it constantly, but nothing prepared me for what would happen next. During quarantine, I started running every day. It became my escape from the confinement of my house. I jogged down the same roads I always had, just to feel some sense of normalcy again. But one day, about a month ago, I noticed something strange. I was on the main road, running as usual, when I saw a white SUV coming up behind me. It was too slow, too deliberate. I glanced back just to make sure. It followed me, the same exact pace. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But the next day, the same SUV appeared again. And the day after that. Every day it followed me. Never too close, but never far enough to forget it was there. I tried changing my route, running later in the day, but no matter what, it followed me. It was like it had learned my schedule. On the 11th day, I saw something that made my blood run cold, a black sedan. Again. I was already on edge, but seeing the sedan parked at the end of a side street with the silhouette of a person hunched down low, barely visible under the car, made my heart race. I took off in the opposite direction, but the SUV was there, blocking my way. I knew what I had to do. I sprinted. A man jumped out of the SUV, chasing me. I pushed my legs harder, running faster than I ever had. He shouted at me to stop, said he just wanted to talk, but I didn't stop. I kept running, my lungs burning until I reached the safety of my house. I finally told my parents, and the police were called. But without a license plate, they couldn't do much. Since then, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. The same people, the same cars, following me for years. I can't help but wonder if this has all been building to something darker. Maybe they weren't just watching me all these years. Maybe they were waiting.